Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 8th day of February, 2024. I can't have my glasses up like this because I can't see. They're for reading, but I can't see distance with it. It's like, oh, everything's blurry. Well, anyway, I hope everyone's doing well. Let's go ahead and get started here, and we'll take the runes for the day and see where that takes us. I regard the runes, if you haven't been here before, welcome, by the way. If you have, thank you so much for coming back. But if you have, you know that the runes are the significators for the reading. Sort of gives us the actual focus of things. So we'll start with the Elder Futhark rune on the above side, and we have Tiwaz. Tiwaz represents the god Tyr, the Norse god Tyr, and justice. The spiritual warrior within, faith, ideals, oaths, sacrifice. Legal decisions it can have something to do with. Right now we have some legal stuff going on in the Supreme Court, so I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with that, maybe not. But the spiritual warrior within is generally how I interpret Tiwaz. And what that means to me is, in fact, before I take the Geomancy rune, let's look at this. We have Isa, which is the single line here, which is a Norn rune for the present moment or aligning in spirit. Here we have Kenaz turned in a funny way there as a little hat. Looks like a little arrow, but it's pointed up to spirit, essentially, as opposed to somewhere else pointed to ego. But here it's taking the idea of the spiritual warrior and expanding that into your interactions with others, into your experiences you have, the values that you have, the oaths you take, the sacrifices you make. For others, on behalf of others, loyalty, having that strong sense of loyalty with people, especially people that need your loyalty. Not the superficial kind, but someone who really needs it, who needs you to be on their side, who needs you to tell them the truth. It's really that type of energy that defines Tiwaz. And so if you're looking at Isa as the straight line, you're looking alignment in spirit. And then Kenaz, which is actually like this, but it's this way for the purposes of Tiwaz. It's also the torch or the light of spirit. So it just caps that off. It infuses that into the spiritual warrior. You also can see Laguz forward and reverse there. Laguz looks like this. And so you can see Laguz, again, flowing in spirit. All of this comes from spirit. All of this comes from the soul and not from the physical reality. That's not being derived from physical reality, because physical reality is filled with ego and personal agenda and all of that and judgment. This is something higher than that, where you really act as the spiritual warrior on behalf of others, basically. But let's go ahead and take the Geomancy rune to balance things out here and see what it has to say. Let's see. We're going to put this in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Well, we have a little lack of impulse control today with Pur. Now, Pur is one of the youthful energies. Here it is here. You've got the little male energy, little boy energy here with Pur. Puella, its complement would be little girl energy. But both are scattered. Both lack impulse control. It's not a negative thing, really. It's just if you've had boys, like I had boys. And so they kind of go and do their own thing. And maybe they don't realize that what they're doing is not the best choice. And so they need guidance. And so that's kind of what this is. So we have a little bit of unstable energy, earthbound here today, where impulse control could be an issue. And the spiritual warrior is just there to gently guide that back into the straight and narrow, basically, to get them to understand cause and effect. So, you can think of it as parent and child in a way, the type of energies here, with Tiwaz being the father influence that's going, or the male influence, or the parent who's handling it influence. It doesn't have to necessarily be a male person. And just going in and saying, let's not be doing that. Let's stay focused. Let's not get scattered. Let's not, get attracted by something cool that walks by. It's like squirrel, and there they go, So let's keep things on the straight and narrow. Let's keep things going forward. Let's stay on track and do it with a sense of higher purpose and higher values. So anyway, let's go ahead and cut the deck here, and we'll take the 3 cards. And if we need more, we'll take them, but we're usually pretty good with 3. Well, we've got 1 from Pentacles, 1 from Cups, and 1 from the Major Arcana. But I'm going to leave them where they are, because I like when I get the same number on a card, and then I can put them as bookends, and that's the way I drew and here's the thing: if you draw cards and it doesn't make any sense to you, move them around, make it make sense to you. You can do that. Unless it's a specific type of spread that you're using where each thing means something, then you would leave them in that, like the Celtic cross spread, for example. But when you're just doing a generalized reading, a 3-card reading, you can move them around to make sense, especially if you've got cards like court cards that can talk to one another. So, it's important to do that. But I'm going to leave this alone here. Because I think that this is a really positive reading. We've got the 3 of Pentacles, the Lovers, and the 3 of Cups. And so overall, we're looking at something that is about it's positive interaction. It's coming together in balance with one another, and when that happens, lots of positive things can flow from that. So we're going to start out with that. There's no real evidence of the poor energy in the reading, other than maybe getting sidetracked or something. And maybe it's just a cautionary tale, in other words. But it seems like everybody's going in the same direction here. Everybody's doing things that they should be doing. And everybody seems on the same page at minimum. But let's talk about the 3 of Pentacles. Pentacles is about the earth element. So it's about our work and our life and our home and our education and tradition. And again, it follows suit with Tiwa's, in that, there's loyalty here. Here you see 2 people coming by looking at what a mason is doing. And maybe they're looking at everything and they're thinking, wow, I'd like to hire you. I mean, they're either giving him positive feedback and saying what a beautiful job he's doing, or it's about maybe potentially hiring him. And so he's out there on display, and 2 other people come by and they're admiring his work. I mean, you can see it. It's all very ornate. You see the 3 pentacles up here, the triplicity involved. Triplicities are everything happening in 3s. And so, you can think about it as maiden, mother, crone. You can look at it in terms of the full moon. You can take and look at it as maybe past, present, future. Anything that's a 3, where you can look at 3 ideas or 3 concepts that are integrated together. And when you see somebody out there, and people come by, that's an interesting form of integration, isn't it? Getting positive feedback about the work he's doing. And potentially, either them hiring them or is telling someone else, hey, go look at what this guy's doing in town because it's really good work and you need this, so go talk to him. So there's networking maybe going on. There's that type of integration that the 3 talks about. I'm going to move to, I'll just go to the Lovers. All right. So here we have the Lovers, which is basically about balance and duality. It's also about discrimination, choice, self and others, or self and the partner, and another type of integration. So here, another type of integration, only more foundational in terms of polarity, and unification of that. The idea of finding some kind of balance. I mean, it can portend a marriage, maybe, which is another type of integration, basically. But here we see the angel above looking down on the couple. This is essentially Adam and Eve, a representation of Adam and Eve. Here you have the sun or heaven or the Lord or Spirit or God or whatever, the Creator looking down, that is represented by the sun. And you see the Creator's emissary, the angel, sitting on top of a cloud. anytime you see something coming out of the clouds, or there's clouds around, sometimes it can mean deception, but in terms of higher awareness, you look at all the aces in the Rider-Waite, it'll be a hand reaching out from the cloud holding a symbol of that particular suit, of that particular element. And so for water element, you'll see the hand reaching out with a cup. For air, you'll see it reaching out with a sword. But it's always a hand reaching out from the clouds, and that means something divine. Generally, there's little radiation coming off the hand. That's divine intervention coming in and reminding the individual that there's higher purpose involved here in what you're doing. Well, that's what this is. You see Eve. Here's the apple tree here, and the serpent, and the tree of knowledge essentially. Here you have the man Adam, and he's standing in front of a kind of a spindly, beginning to grow. Is what I mean by spindly. It's not fully leafed out. Oak tree. So you see the strength of the masculine or projective side. You see the receptive side, because she's receptive to what the message is. And eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, basically. The apple tree there, because they knew that she was the one that was the stronger of the two. She's looking toward spirit, or toward heaven, or toward source, and the angel who is the emissary of source, but he's looking at her. So he's not focused on the higher principle. It's the receptive presence within that is receptive to that message, to that higher message. 4 is about structure and foundation. So this is the ultimate foundation that the soul has. After the magician creates the structure, the elemental structure, the high priestess creates the inner world, essentially, the receptive presence. Magician would be the active presence, and so then you have the empress that gives birth to creation. Then you have you don't start out with this, okay? First, because after the high priestess, the third card is the empress. The fourth is the emperor, who is the consort of the empress. Okay, she's already birthed creation, and then now she's got him, right? And that's number 4. Number 5 is the Hierophant, and so that's divine mercy and hidden knowledge and spirituality and mastery and all of that. And then number 6 is when we finally get to the Lovers and balancing the polarity within form. Okay, everything else is higher purpose and all of that, and then we get to the Lovers and we really start integrating all of that into the personality itself. And so again, whether you're talking about balancing polarity here, masculine and feminine within, or projective and receptive presence, it's really a card about integration. And and even though it's a 4, it's the integration of the soul within the body, essentially. And so how we approach people, how we integrate with other people, is going to depend on how we've done that within. Okay? Then we come to the 3 of Cups. Now again, Cups is the water element, so that's our emotions. It's compassion, it's change, it's empathy. It's empathic awareness. And here you have 3 friends, 3 women that have come together. You see all the harvest, the abundance around them. They're at a party, basically, and they're celebrating. You see this one looks like she's got something in her hand. Maybe it's a bouquet. You can't really tell for sure. But everybody else, she and everybody else, they're raising their cups high in the air in celebration. And again, this is another form of integration, isn't it, with the 3? And also interaction with the 3, because 3 is also about communication. And so how we interact with each other in compassion and love is also important. So, you kind of have 2 issues here with the 3. You've got here, which is representing love and compassion and all of that with the cups. But here you have getting down to business here, don't you? And so out of this maybe comes this, where the abundance that of the money that this guy makes off of doing his trade here, practicing his trade, he's going to make money, and he's going to secure his future. He's going to bring security into his life. If he has a family, he's going to be able to provide for them, help provide for them. So again, it's integration. We have 6 and 4 is 10. It reduces to 1. Tiwaz, though, is the 17th rune, so that's going to reduce, that number is going to reduce to 8. 8 and 1 is 9. And so we're talking about a very spiritual thing. 9 is about endings and completion, but it's also about spirituality and generosity. Like generosity of spirit, basically. And so it's the magnification of the 3, 3, 6, and 9. It's a magnification of that. And so the overall numerology then is one of spirituality, which aligns well with Tiwaz being the spiritual warrior within, and with Pur trying to keep the impulses under control so you stay on that path, essentially, today. Especially if you're going to have any interactions with other people that might help you, if you're an entrepreneur, a self-employed person, or you're just out there doing work for the boss, whatever that is, right? You're doing something that's going to bring in more work, essentially, where people are going to notice you and you're going to see what's going on. And then you're going to be able to celebrate the abundance that gives you. Right? You see the cause and effect between the 2 3s when it's looked at this way. But again, how you balance the stuff within, that polarity within, the receptive and projective presence within, is going to determine the success of this. Are you just in it for yourself? Are you the kind of business owner, for example, that's all about getting the money and you don't really care about the corners you cut to get there? That's not what we're talking about when we talk about Tiwaz. Tiwaz stands up. Tiwaz says, no, this is what the law is. This is what the truth is. This is how we're going to do it. We're not going to deviate from that path. Because you do, then it's going to cost you in the end. And the abundance you're looking for here in this particular 3 card, the 3 of Cups, is not going to come. Maybe initially, but then word gets out, right? That you're not an honest broker, basically. Right, with your customers. And so again, the Lovers, again, discrimination, choice, integration, unification. The only way that happens is if you don't become distracted and you stay the course of spirit. And again, if you're looking at the spiritual warrior within, that's a tough place to be in a world where so many people want to cut corners, isn't it? You see it in your personal life, with neighbors, with friends, with family, with at your job. You see it happen everywhere. You see it with the businesses you do business with. And the bottom line is that if we're all going to come together in harmony, which is what's happening here, there can't be any sleight of hand that might happen here. And there has to be honesty. There has to be integrity. That's what Tiwaz is talking about. Having that type of integrity with other people. He's just out there and they're coming by and he's telling them how he does his business, what he charges maybe. And he's not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes because he's out in front of everybody. They can see what he's doing, right? He's out in front of them. And here, this is just coming together in harmony and joyful celebration, celebrating the abundance of this, and of being able to come together in unity with other people. That's the other thing, being on the same page. Where, it's not that you can't have different ideas or a difference of opinion, but ultimately we're all headed in the same direction. We might argue how we get there, but we're still going there together. And that's the important part. That's what I think both 3s are stressing here. This integration with people that's healthy, that's with integrity, that's with honor, that's with truth. And letting all of that come from the source presence within. I don't think we need another card. I think we know what's happening here. And I think that we see the cause and effect with the 2 3 cards, the 3 of Pentacles and the 3 of Cups. and how all that can integrate together as long as it's integrated within. You get too much of an imbalance between polarity within and then maybe poor is the result, or maybe worse, rubious is the result, where there's actually a misuse of force. Where you may try to control people and control the narrative when you don't have the ability to do that, but you're going to assert yourself anyway. I've known people that do that. It never turns out well for them, but they have to, I guess, find that out for themselves, but that's just what happens. But I think that in order that you can do this, there has to be a certain level of spiritual balance within. And I think that's what the Lover's card is suggesting. And it's interesting because one thing I've also noticed about this card, and I didn't mention it, you see how the strength, mountains either can mean strength or challenges, essentially, right? There's a fixed type of an experience. And it's just what's going to happen in life, right? You're going to experience challenges. Things could be difficult, but you can overcome it all, right? As long as you stay focused on who you are as a soul. You get into the muck of the ego and, well, it's anybody's guess how it turns out, and it doesn't always turn out in your favor. And if it does, it's temporary, right? But here you see the mountain. Not only is Adam looking at Eve, the mountain is leaning toward the receptive side of self and being willing to hear the truth, being willing to accept knowledge from a higher place, right? Instead of having it be all reactionary and judgmental. And you're trying to navigate those waters all on your own. You don't have to do that. Allow soul to explain to you what needs to happen here. Align with that energy within, and you'll come out in a better place in the long run, right? So I think that that's what this is doing. It's just interesting that you have threes and then you have a six here, sort of balancing the two. It's like the scales, letting things settle out. And overall, so it would have been interesting if this would have turned out to be a 7 numerology for the cards, but it's not. It's a 1. And because 6 I'm sorry, I'm wrong about that. It's not 1. I have to redo. I did that in my head, and I shouldn't have done that. I'm looking at this as a 4. That's not right. So basically, what we have is 6. We have 6 and 5, or 6 and 6 is 12, which is 3. So again, it all comes back to 3. Well, see, this is what happens when I do math in my head. And I have my little calendar, or not calendar, but calculator app right here, and I could have done it right there. But if you're looking at 3 and then 8, oh, that's even better. That's an 11. Well, geez, I'm glad I re-looked at that. Those of you watching going, no, it's not a 1, it's a 3. Well, this is why I keep a calculator app on here. I don't like to do math in my head. So we've got 3s, and we got 3, and 3 is 6, and 6 is 12, and that's 3 plus 8 is 11. So what's 11? 11's, excuse me, the master number for illumination and awakening. So there you go. That's what the whole thing is. And again, that's going to align very well with the energy of Tiwaz, because it's a spiritual warrior within, manifesting things here in physical reality. And so we're going to manifest integration and harmony, and being, truthful with one another, and being honorable, and understanding the collaborative nature of things. It's like people that if you used to working independently, and you're in charge basically when you do that, right? You're in charge of what you're doing because you're working independently. But if you have to collaborate with others, for some people, that's just tough. You get one person who wants to control everything the group's doing. And I suppose if the group is directionless and, it seems like a good way to go, well, that's one thing. But all too often, it ends up being, a place of conflict, and nothing gets done because one person or more than one person, they don't know how to collaborate. They don't know how to work together with other people. It's just vying for who gets to control everything. And, doing a collaborative effort is really hard. When you have a group of people that are the ones in charge and they all have to come together and make a decision together, you can't have a couple of them decide, no, we're going to do this, and go off and do it on their own, and they don't tell anybody, and they just, it becomes a big mess at the end, right? because they've stepped out of the whole collaborative experience and they're doing things they don't have any authority to do. And it impacts everybody else in the group. And then pretty soon people get irritated, right? And it becomes just a really messy situation to deal with. And so collaboration, I think, is key here in this reading. And the 11 numerology says it. You know, it's about working from a standpoint of higher purpose and higher awareness. There's no number associated, by the way, with the geomancy runes. I suppose I could number them, but then it'd be my number and not the numbers that someone else who created it gave it, and I would rather use that, right, if it was that way. But I suppose I could, but I don't know where I'd be. You've got 8 concepts, and you've got 2 ends of the spectrum for each one. So I don't know, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2. I don't know how you'd do that in terms of a numerology. So, or maybe give a half point for each one. But still, you're going to. What if you end up with a like 1.5? You know, there's no numerology for that. So at least not that I know of. Anyway, maybe there is, but not that I know of. So there's no numerology to worry about there. But with 8 and then 3 overall, that's 11, and that's the game here today. Really, is remembering that you have to come from that standpoint when you deal with people. You've got to be the spiritual warrior within, you know, and be honest with people and forthright, and stand up, you know, for your own integrity, even, you know, even if it's not standing up for somebody else, it's standing up for your own integrity. And having that be the platform from which you interact with other people, right? And not letting yourself get distracted by the minutia of things and get caught up in all of that, and get off track, because that's what happens. You know, it's like I send the boys out to do something, and it's like, you know, they're not. You got to go out there, go, okay, but I need you to do this. But they get off track. They see something. Their attention gets turned. You know, it's very easy. It happens, and it's not just to little boys. It happens to everybody, right? And so I think that but when Tiwaz comes into a reading, it's staying the course. It's really standing up in a way that is in a warrior-like fashion. It's like when the little guy goes after the big guy in court. You know, it's hard. It's hard to do that. It's hard to feel like you matter. It's hard to feel like what you need, what is right. It's not about that, and it's about what the big guy, the rich guy wants, right? And whereas the people, you know, that are being harmed by the rich guy, it's like, well, no, you know, you harmed us, or you harmed me, you know, and it's hard to feel like you have any power. You know, but the spiritual warrior within is the kind that says, well, you do have the power. It's like when self-assertion became a thing. You know, it's like active listening was a thing. Well, self-assertion was a thing. How do you assert yourself in situations where you feel like you have no power? Well, you don't have to yell and scream. You know, you might have to sue, but sometimes you can just very quietly come up and say, this is the problem. This is what I want. I feel like this shouldn't have happened, and I would like this remedy. And sometimes it's unnerving enough to people in power where they're not expecting it. And you don't have to get angry. You don't have to threaten. You don't have to do anything. You just have to state your purpose. And sometimes that's all it takes. They're not expecting it. They don't know what to do, but maybe give you what you want. I don't know. I know it works. I mean, it doesn't always work. I mean, you know, if somebody's like, is just absolutely not going to give you what you want, you might have to take them to court on it, you know? But again, you're asserting what you need, and you're doing it in a way that is part of the process, you know, of how you do that sort of thing. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to do any of those things. You can assert yourself in a way that other people will respond to in a way that you want. But getting upset and yelling and screaming and threatening and all of that doesn't work. It just doesn't. Sometimes it's just the quiet, here's how it is. Here's what I see happened. Here's my proof. It's a little hard to ignore somebody like that. It's a very powerful resonance when somebody gets it together enough to let go of the fear, or just does it in spite of the fear that they might have, and go and do something like that. And that's Tiwaz. And not getting distracted by whatever the other side is trying to, manipulate out of you, right? It's that would be a distraction. It's like, no, I'm going to stand my ground here, and I'm going to do it respectfully, because I expect the same from the other person, right? If you come in and you're not respectful, well, you're not going to get any respect from them. It's going to match force with force, right? So I just think this is a really interesting reading. And I think that it really shows the way tarot can show you both sides of something, or cause and effect, and what the foundation needs to be in order that you get from one place to the other. So however this might apply for you today, just remember the idea of Tiwaz. And it's the spiritual warrior within, where you're going to stand your ground and have integrity, proceed from that place, and not reduce yourself to the level someone else might be on, right? That's a tough thing, because, the fight starts, right? And pretty soon you're no longer in control of that. You're in that reaction mode with that other person. So, this might be about, your job, or it could just simply represent an idea or a concept for you that might help you to understand what you're going through, what you're experiencing, maybe from a different perspective. So anyhow, that's it. Thanks for watching. Check out the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. Click on more below the video. If you forget, it's right there. And go visit my blog. I like it. I think I did a good job on it, but you see what you think. I think it periodically I make changes, and I made one a while back, not too long ago though, and I like the theme that it's using now. I just like it better than what I had before. And I've like I said, I've changed it a few times. I even changed the name of the blog once, and that was fun. But thank goodness for my web hosting service. They did it all for me. So I'm like, oh God, I don't know what to do. And so they're like, well, here, I'll do it. So they did. They migrated it all. They did what they did, and it worked out. So, but go check that out. I also I post some of that stuff I write over there. I post over on Substack, Patreon, and Medium. If you're on any of those platforms and you like to read stuff there, I'm on those places as well. On Substack, my name is referenced, but the page is actually called Witch Notes. I wrote a book called Witch Notes. I used to do some posts called Witch Notes. So finally, and when I started the Substack thing, I decided to call it Witch Notes. But yeah, Witch Notes was a book of correspondences I wrote. And it was just one that I've been collecting a bunch of stuff. Some of it's in my grimoire and some of it isn't. But it's just, if I needed something to, go to, I did a PDF for myself, right? Just to look something up real quick. And then I decided, well, heck, I'll just publish it. So I did. And so it's just a little book of correspondences, and it has herbs in it, it has crystals, it has, it has everything for witchcraft. So anyway, that's why I just decided to call the Substack thing Witch Notes. I don't know. But anyway, that's over there. Otherwise, you can just look at everything on the blog. Now, the new stuff comes out in the midnight hour on Sundays every week. So there's the forecast for the week. There's the correspondences for the week for Work and Magic. There's also, right now, an Exploring Tarot series. I'm getting to the finishing of it. I'm not sure. Maybe this summer I'll be done with it. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how many cards left I have to do, but I've done most of them. And so when I'm done with that, I'll do something else. But then there's also an astrological overview for the week. So if you like a little cheat sheet, if you want to look at that. And then I also post the write-ups for these readings over there too. And I also do that over on the other places. I do the readings over there too. And so check all that out. And I'd love you to do that. And click subscribe if you haven't, and I'll give it a like if you would. I'd appreciate that. And I mean, unless you didn't like it, then you don't have to do that. But in any event, I hope you did. But anyway, I hope you find some value in this, and come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.